Before we dive into tonight's tale, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more creepy stories that will keep you up at night. Alright, man, let me tell you how this whole messed up thing kicked off. My name's Ray Cutler, 48 years old, and trust me, I've had my share of rough patches. Gruff voice, bags under my eyes, the works. Back in 2008, I was stuck working as a janitor at Alcatraz, mopping floors on that creepy-ass island just to scrape by. Divorced a while back, barely ever talked to my kid. Tim, he was 25 then, living his own life somewhere far off, and I hadn't seen his face in years. That job? It was nothing special, just a paycheck to keep the lights on, you know? So, picture this. It's late, and this nasty storm rolls in out of nowhere. The wind's screaming through the cracks in the old prison walls, sounding like a damn banshee, and the waves are slamming against the rocks so hard I could feel the floor shake under my boots. I'm in the middle of dragging my mop across the grimy concrete when, bam, the power cuts out. Total blackout. The whole place goes dark as a grave, just the sound of that storm tearing at the building like it's trying to rip it apart. I wasn't alone that night, though. Eddie was there with me, this twitchy little guy, 34, all sharp edges and nervous energy. He's an ex-con who somehow landed this gig, and he's pacing around, chain-smoking like it's his last day on Earth. His hands are shaking as he lights one cigarette off the last, those wild eyes of his darting around the shadows. He keeps muttering under his breath, stuff like, "This place is cursed, Ray. I'm telling ya." I just roll my eyes and grunt. "Yeah, sure, Eddie. Keep smoking your ghosts away." Guy was always spooked, but I figured it was just his nerves talking. That is, until I heard something that shut me up real quick. I'm standing there, sloshing the mop around in the bucket, when this low, guttural sound cuts through the storm, like a whisper, but deep, like it's coming from somewhere way down inside the walls. It's coming from Cellblock D, this section of the prison that's been locked up tight since the 70s when some guards supposedly keeled over in there under weird circumstances. No one talks about it much, just that it's off limits. End of story. I freeze, my hands gripping the mop handle a little tighter, and I glance down at the water in the bucket. It's red. Not just a little murky, but swirling crimson, like someone dumped a gallon of blood in there when I wasn't looking. I blink hard, thinking maybe it's a trick of the dark or my tired eyes, but nope, it's still red, rippling under the faint glow of the emergency exit sign. My stomach does a slow flip, and I mutter, "What the hell?" under my breath. Eddie catches me staring and stumbles over, his cigarette dangling from his lips. He peeks at the bucket, lets out this shaky little laugh, and says, "See? Told you, man. This place ain't right." I shove the mop back in the water, splashing some of it on the floor, and snap, "It's just rust or some crap from the pipes, relax." But then, boom! A loud bang echoes down the hall, sharp and metallic, like someone slammed a steel door shut. It's coming from D block, no question about it. The sound bounces off the walls, fading slow, and I feel this cold twist in my gut, like something's watching me. Eddie's freaking out now, backing up against the wall, his cigarette dropping to the floor with a tiny hiss as it hits the wet concrete. "Don't do it, Ray," he says, voice all high and jittery. "Don't go down there, man, I'm begging ya." I grab my flashlight off the table, big, heavy thing with a beam that could cut through fog, and flick it on, the light bouncing off the peeling paint. "Stay here if you're scared," I tell him, my voice gruffer than I mean it to be. "I'm just gonna take a look." He's shaking his head, practically clawing at the air like he wants to drag me back, but I'm already moving. Stubborn as a damn mule, that's me. Always have been. I take a deep breath, the damp, salty air filling my lungs, and start walking toward D block, the beam of my flashlight wobbling with every step. The storm's still raging outside, rain pelting the roof like 1,000 tiny fists, and as I get closer to that sealed-off section, the whispers pick up again, soft, raspy, like voices just out of reach. My boots scuff against the floor, kicking up little puffs of dust, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm not just walking into the dark, I'm walking into something that's been waiting for me. So I'm heading toward D block now. The second I cross that threshold, man, it's like stepping into a whole different world. The air slams into me, heavy and damp, like I'm breathing through a wet rag. It's got this nasty metallic stink, like rust mixed with something sour I can't quite place. My boots squeak on the slick floor, and I swing my flashlight around, the beam slicing through the pitch black like a knife. It lands on cell 14, this rusted-out cage a few steps ahead, and that's when I see it. Scratches gouged into the wall, deep and jagged, spelling out, "You hear us," in crooked, uneven letters. They look fresh, like someone dragged a nail across the concrete 5 minutes ago, and my heart starts pounding like a jackhammer in my chest. I'm just standing there, staring, when I hear Eddie shuffling up behind me. He'd followed me after all, the jittery little bastard. His breathing's all ragged, and he's pale as a ghost, his face practically glowing in the dark. "Ray," he whispers, his voice barely holding together. "I heard it too, man. Those voices. I swear I never came down here to look, though. I ain't that stupid." I glance back at him, and he's got his hands shoved in his pockets, rocking back and forth on his heels like he's about to bolt. I don't say anything, just nod and turn back to the cell, my flashlight trembling a little in my grip. That's when the damn thing flickers, the beam stuttering like it's about to die. I smack it against my palm, muttering, "Come on, you piece of junk," and when the light steadies, I damn near drop it. There they are, 3 shapes standing in cell 14, tall and bony, like skeletons stretched too thin. They're wearing these shredded prison stripes, all torn up and hanging off them like rags, and their heads tilt toward me slow, real slow. I can't make out their faces at first, but then the light catches their eyes, or where their eyes should be. Just black holes, deep and empty, staring right through me like I'm not even there. My skin goes cold, prickling all over, and I blink hard, thinking it's gotta be a trick of the shadows. But when my eyes open again, they're gone, like they'd never been there at all. I let out a shaky breath, and it fogs up in front of me, swirling in the beam of my flashlight. That's when I realize how freezing it's gotten, like the humid, sticky air turned to ice in a heartbeat. I mutter, "What the hell is this place?" Under my breath, rubbing my free hand on my jacket to warm it up. Eddie's still behind me, and I hear him take a step back, his sneakers scuffing the floor. "Ray, let's go, man," he says, voice cracking. This ain't worth it. But I'm rooted to the spot, my eyes locked on that empty cell, my pulse still hammering in my ears. We finally stumble back to the break room, my legs feeling like lead the whole way. I'm dripping sweat despite the cold, and Eddie's chain smoking again, the little orange glow of his cigarette bouncing as his hands shake. I slump into a chair, tossing my flashlight on the table. It clatters loud against the metal, and reach for my radio, this old beat-up thing clipped to my belt. I just want to call it in, tell someone the power's still out, but the second I thumb the button, it crackles to life on its own. Static pours out, loud and sharp, and then voices start breaking through. Men shouting, pleading, overlapping like a dozen conversations at once. I'm fumbling with the dial, trying to turn it off when I hear it, clear as a bell through all that noise. Ray. My own damn name, spoken low and slow, like someone standing right behind me. I drop the radio, and it hits the floor with a thud, still spitting out those garbled voices. Eddie's on his feet in a flash, eyes wild, and he snatches it up, slamming it against the edge of the table. "They're in our heads, Ray," he yells, smashing it again and again until the plastic cracks and the noise finally dies. He's breathing hard, staring at the broken pieces like they're gonna come back to life, and I just sit there, my hands clenched into fists on my knees. "Calm down, man," I growl, but my voice is shaky too. It's just interference or something. But then the whispers start again, soft, creeping out of the walls around us, like they're seeping through the cracks in the concrete. It's not loud, not like the radio, but it's everywhere. Raspy little murmurs I can't quite make out, like something scratching to get free. I stand up slow, my chair scraping the floor, and glance at Eddie. He's frozen, staring at the wall behind me, and I turn to look. Nothing there, just peeling paint and shadows. "You hear that, right?" I ask, my throat dry. He nods real slow and mutters, "Yeah, Ray, I hear it." I grab my jacket off the back of the chair, slinging it over my shoulder and head for the door. "Come on," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're done here tonight." But as we step out into the hall, the whispers follow us, faint but persistent, and I can't shake the feeling that those black-eyed shadows saw me, really saw me, and they're not letting go that easy. After that night in D-Block with Eddie, I should have just walked away, called in sick, quit the damn job, something. But nah, I couldn't let it go. The next night rolls around, and I'm back at Alcatraz, alone this time. Eddie, he'd bailed on me. I found this crumpled note shoved under my locker door when I got there, scribbled in his messy handwriting. "You're crazy, Ray. Don't go back. I'm out." I could practically hear his shaky voice in those words, but I just crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash can by the break room door. "Coward," I muttered to myself, kicking the can a little harder than I meant to. Thing is, I wasn't mad at him. I was mad at me, 'cause deep down, I knew he was right. But I had to know what was going on. It was like this itch I couldn't scratch, gnawing at me all day. So, I grabbed my flashlight, same one from the night before, still dented from me smacking it, and this little handheld recorder I'd snagged from home. It's one of those cheap ones, all scratched up from years in a junk drawer, but it still worked. I figured if I could catch those whispers on tape, maybe I'd have proof, or at least something to convince myself I wasn't losing it. I head down the hall toward D-Block. The storm from last night gone, but the air still heavy, like the island was holding its breath. My boots echo off the walls, this steady thump-thump that's way too loud in the quiet, and I keep my thumb on the recorder's button, ready to hit it the second I hear anything. I step into D-Block again, and that rusty stench hits me like a punch, stronger this time, like old pipes and something sour festering in the dark. I flick on the flashlight, sweep it around, and there's cell 14, those scratches still glaring at me. "You hear us." My chest tightens, but I force myself to stay calm, muttering, "All right, let's see what you got." I press record, holding the little device up like some ghost hunter on TV, and just stand there, listening. At first, it's nothing, just the faint drip of water somewhere down the hall, plinking against the concrete. Then it starts, those whispers again, creeping in slow. Dozens of voices this time, all jumbled up, some laughing low and mean, some cursing in hoarse snarls, others begging, "Please, please, get me out of here." I'm turning in circles, trying to pin down where it's coming from, but it's everywhere, bouncing off the walls, curling around me like smoke. I stop the recording after a minute, my hands sweaty as I fumble with the buttons to play it back. The little speaker crackles, and there they are, those voices, clear as day. I'm leaning in, holding it close to my ear when it happens. My own voice cuts through the mess, sharp and desperate, saying, "Let me out." I drop the recorder like it burned me, and it clatters across the floor, still playing that damn line on loop till I stomp over and shut it off. My stomach's churning, this cold, heavy knot twisting inside me, and I rasp out, "That's not possible. I didn't say that." But I heard it. Me, plain as anything. I'm shaking now, but I stumble back to the break room, my flashlight beam jittering across the walls. I shove open my locker to grab my jacket, need to get out of there, clear my head. And that's when I see my boots. They're sitting there on the bottom shelf, same old work boots I've worn for months, but now they're laced up with these thin, wiry threads woven through the eyelets. I lean closer, squinting, and my breath catches. They're strands of human hair, damp and matted, stinking like rot and wet earth. I grab one, yank it free, and swear to God, it twitches in my fingers, curling like a worm before going limp. I fling it away, cursing loud, "What the hell is this?" and kick the locker shut so hard the clang echoes down the hall. I'm pacing now, dragging my hands through my hair, when I remember the security office down by the main entrance. There's a little setup there, grainy old cameras that barely work half the time, but they might have caught something. I jog over, my boots pounding the floor, and fumble with the keys till I get the door open. The room's tiny, smells like stale coffee and dust, and there's this clunky monitor hooked up to a VCR. I rewind the tape from last night, my hands clumsy on the controls, and there I am, walking into D-Block, flashlight in hand. But then it glitches. Screen flickers, and suddenly it's showing me just standing there, stock still in front of cell 14 for hours. The timestamp jumps from 11:47 p.m. to 2:13 a.m. in a blink, but I know I was only in there 10 minutes, tops. I rewind it, watch again, same thing. Me, frozen like a statue, staring into nothing. I stumble back from the desk, my hip banging into a chair, and catch my reflection in this cracked little mirror on the wall. My hair, it's graying at the temples, way more than it was yesterday, and my face looks hollow, like I haven't slept in weeks. My eyes are sunken, shadowed, and I barely recognize the guy staring back at me. I mutter, "What's happening to me?" and run a hand over my jaw, feeling the stubble scrape my palm. Something's pulling me apart piece by piece. I can feel it in my bones, this slow unraveling I can't stop. And the worst part? Even then, standing there looking like a dead man, I knew I'd go back again. It's like D-Block's got me on a leash, tugging me deeper every time I try to pull away. So by this point, I'm in way over my head, and I know it. After that night with the recorder and the security footage, I couldn't just sit there twiddling my thumbs. I had to figure out what the hell was going on in D-Block. So I start digging. The next day, I'm off shift, and I head straight to this dusty little records room at the Alcatraz admin building. It's this cramped space tucked away behind the gift shop, full of filing cabinets that look like they haven't been touched since Nixon was president. I'm flipping through these yellowed logbooks, my hands smudged with grime, and that's when I find it, a report from May 1946 about a riot in D-Block. 3 prisoners, Carver, Malone, and Hicks, went nuts, attacked a guard, and then, poof, they vanished. No bodies, no explanation, just gone. The official story says they drowned trying to escape, but the details are sketchy as hell, like someone scrubbed the truth out of the pages. I'm sitting there, rubbing my eyes because they're burning from lack of sleep, when I grab my mop from the corner. I dragged it along to clean up some spilled coffee and noticed something. There on the wooden handle are fresh scratches, CMH. Carver, Malone, Hicks. My mouth goes dry and I run my thumb over the marks. They're deep, like someone carved them with a knife overnight. I mutter, "No way," and toss the mop back against the wall, the clatter loud in that quiet room. That's when I know I need to talk to someone who's been around longer than me. So I track down Hank. He's this grizzled old ranger, 70 years old, face like a road map of scars and hard years. He worked Alcatraz back in the 90s, and I'd heard him drop cryptic little hints about the place over beers at the pier sometimes. I find him at his trailer, this beat-up thing parked a couple miles from the ferry dock, surrounded by overgrown weeds and rusted junk. He's out front, tinkering with an old boat motor, grease smeared on his knuckles. I walk up, gravel crunching under my boots, and say, "Hey, Hank, got a minute?" He squints at me, wiping his hands on a rag, and grunts, "You look like shit, Ray. What's eating ya?" We sit on these rickety lawn chairs by his porch, the metal creaking under my weight, and I spill everything. The whispers, the shadows, the hair in my boots. He doesn't laugh or call me crazy like I half expected. Instead, he gets real quiet, then reaches into this battered tin box on the table between us. He pulls out a Polaroid, faded and creased, and slides it over. It's him, younger, standing next to some guard from 78. Guy's face is scratched out with something sharp, just a mess of white lines where his features should be. But what gets me is the background. D-Block's doorway, and there, faint as hell, are 3 shapes, tall, blurry, like they're caught mid-step. I hadn't noticed them till Hank tapped the photo with a shaky finger and said, "Look closer." His voice drops low, rough as gravel, and he leans in. "They didn't die, Ray. Carver, Malone, Hicks, they didn't drown or escape. After that riot, the guards sealed them alive in a hidden cell down in D-Block, bricked it up, left them to rot. But they didn't go quiet. Every 30 years they wake up, I guess, reach out, take someone. Happened in 78, that guard in the picture, he was next. Now it's you." His words hit me like a punch, and I'm just staring at him, my coffee going cold in my hands. The trailer's porch light flickers above us, buzzing like a pissed-off hornet, and the whole place dims for a second, shadows stretching across the yard. I'm about to ask him how he knows all this when I see it. A shadow behind him, looming against the trailer wall. Too tall, too thin, like it's got no business being human. Hank doesn't turn, doesn't seem to notice, but my skin's crawling, and then I hear it, "Dad." It's Tim's voice, my son, soft and clear, whispering from nowhere. I whip my head around, spilling coffee down my shirt, but there's nothing, just the empty yard, the wind rustling the weeds. Hank's staring at me now, eyes wide, and he mutters, "You heard it too, didn't you?" I don't answer, just shove the chair back, the legs scraping loud on the wood, and bolt for my truck. My keys jangle as I fumble them into the ignition, and I peel out of there, tires kicking up dirt, my heart slamming against my ribs. I'm halfway back to the ferry, the road dark and winding when it sinks in. Hank's right. Those initials, the whispers, my name on that tape, it's all lining up. I'm marked, man, and whatever's in D-Block, it's not just messing with me, it's reaching out further. I grip the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white, and mutter, "Gotta end this." But even as I say it, I know I'm not done digging yet. I've got no choice but to go deeper. After Hank dropped that bombshell about Carver, Malone, and Hicks, I couldn't just sit on it. I had to go back and face whatever was in D-Block. But I wasn't dumb enough to go alone this time. I tracked Eddie down first, found him holed up in this dive bar near the pier, nursing a beer and looking like he hadn't slept in days. His hands were trembling as he lit a cigarette, the flame flickering in the dim light. "Eddie," I said, sliding into the booth across from him, "I need you back at the prison, one last time." He laughed, this bitter, shaky sound, and muttered, "You're out of your damn mind, Ray." But I leaned in, voice low, and told him, "You ran, man, left me there. You owe me this." Guilt's a hell of a thing. It ate him alive right there, and after a long drag on his smoke, he nodded, muttering, "Fine, but if I die, I'm haunting your ass." Then there was Hank. I called him up, caught him just as he was locking his trailer door. "Bring something heavy," I told him over the crackling line. "We're busting in." He showed up at the ferry dock an hour later, this grizzled old guy lugging a crowbar over his shoulder and a spare flashlight clipped to his belt. He didn't say much, just gave me this hard look and grunted, "Let's get it over with." The three of us took the late boat over, the water choppy and black under a cloudy sky, the island looming up ahead like some ugly scar on the horizon. My stomach was in knots, but I kept my mouth shut, just listening to the motor hum and Eddie's nervous foot tapping beside me. We hit D-Block around midnight, the air thick and sour as ever. I led the way, flashlight in one hand, a hammer I'd grabbed from the janitor's closet in the other. Hank was right behind me, crowbar ready, and Eddie trailed last, muttering curses under his breath. We found the sealed cell Hank had talked about, this heavy steel door hidden behind a rusted grate in the back corner of D-Block. I nodded to Hank, and he wedged the crowbar into the seam, grunting as he leaned into it. The metal groaned, then popped loose with a screech that made my teeth ache. I kicked the door open, the clang echoing down the hall, and we stepped inside. The first thing that hit me was the pit. Right there in the middle of the floor, this jagged hole maybe 5 feet wide, like something had clawed its way up from below. The walls were covered in scratch marks, deep and frantic, crisscrossing every inch like a madman's diary. And they weren't still. They pulsed, slow and steady, like the whole room was breathing. I swung my flashlight around, the beam shaking in my grip, and the smell slammed into me. Burnt flesh, sharp and nauseating, mixed with that rusty tang I'd come to know too well. Eddie gagged behind me, coughing out, "Jesus, Ray, what is this?" I didn't answer, just took a step closer to the pit, my boots scuffing the gritty floor. That's when I saw them. Down in that hole, maybe 10 feet below, were Carver, Malone, and Hicks. Skeletal, alive, their skin stretched tight over bones like wet paper. Their mouths were stitched shut with thick black threads, but the whispers were still coming, raspy and muffled, seeping through the seams. One of them, Carver, I think, judging by the C scratched into his chest, was clutching this rusted spoon, the handle carved with Ray 08 in shaky letters. My blood ran cold and I rasped, "That's my name." Hank grabbed my arm, his grip like iron, and hissed, "Don't look at him, Ray!" Too late. They moved, fast, lunging up from the pit like spiders, those stitches tearing open into wide black toothless maws. Eddie screamed my name, "Ray!" his voice cracking as they grabbed him, bony hands snagging his jacket. I swung my hammer, missed, and he was gone, yanked down into the pit, his yell cutting off as the walls rippled and swallowed him whole, like he'd never been there. I stumbled back, my flashlight clattering to the floor, and Hank roared, swinging his crowbar at one of them. Mid-swing, the damn thing bent, folded like rubber, useless, and he dropped it, clutching his chest. His face went gray, eyes rolling back, and he hit the ground hard, dead before he even settled. I didn't think, just ran. My boots pounded the concrete, slipping on the slick floor as I bolted for the door. Hank's flashlight was still in my hand, flickering out as I went, the beam dying just as I reached the threshold. The whispers roared in my skull, loud and chaotic, drowning out my own thoughts, laughing, cursing, calling my name. Something clawed at my back, sharp and cold, ripping through my jacket as I threw myself out. I hit the hall floor hard, scrambling up just in time to see the cell door slam shut behind me, sealing itself with this sick, wet sound, like flesh knitting back together. I sat there, panting, my hands scraped raw, feeling the sting of those claw marks burning down my spine. All right, man, so this is where it all lands. Months after that nightmare in D Block, and I'm a total wreck. They've got me locked up in this psych ward, some sterile box of a place with white walls and buzzing fluorescent lights that never turn off. I'm sitting there in a scratchy gown, 48 going on 80, my hands shaking every time I try to hold a cup of water. The docs keep pumping me full of pills, saying I'm delusional, that I imagined the whole thing, Eddie, Hank, the pit. But I know what I saw, and it's eating me up inside. I barely sleep, just stare at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the vents and the occasional scream from down the hall. One day, Tim shows up. My son, 25, tall, with those same hazel eyes I used to have before mine started changing. He walks into the visiting room, this little space with bolted down tables and a guard by the door, and he just stops staring at me. "Dad," he says, voice quiet, "what happened to your eyes?" I catch my reflection in the glass behind him. My irises are going black, like ink's bleeding into them slow. I shrug, forcing a weak laugh, and mutter, "Guess I've seen some shit, kid." He sits down, hands clasped tight, and we talk. Awkward, stilted stuff about his job, his apartment. But then my fingers start moving on their own, scratching into the table. I don't even realize it till he grabs my wrist, eyes wide, and I look down. "You hear us," carved right there in jagged letters. I yank my hand back, muttering, "I didn't mean to." But he's already pale, shaking his head like he's trying to unsee it. He doesn't stay long after that, just squeezes my shoulder and promises to come back. A couple days later, he calls me, voice shaky over the ward's crackly payphone. "Dad, I found your old jacket, the one from work. It was in a box I picked up from your place." I hear him swallow hard, then he says, "The pockets, they're full of dirt, like black Alcatraz dirt, and when I dumped it out, it moved, formed these tiny faces, screaming ones when I wasn't looking straight at it." My throat tightens, and I grip the phone till my knuckles ache, rasping, "Get rid of it, Tim. Burn it." He laughs, nervous, and says, "Yeah, already did, but what the hell's going on?" I don't have an answer, just tell him to stay safe and hang up, my head pounding. Back at the prison, I hear from a buddy who still works there, a guy named Pete, who'd sneak me updates when he could. He says my mop's still in the janitor's closet, leaning against the wall like I left it. But now there's an R scratched into the handle, right next to CMH, Carver, Malone, Hicks. Pete's voice drops low over the line. "Ray, they're saying that thing moves at night, shifts a little, like it's waiting for you." I laugh it off, but it's hollow, and when I hang up, I feel those whispers again. Louder now, rattling around in my skull like loose change, seeping into my bones. That night, Tim has a dream. He tells me about it later, his voice tight with panic. He saw me in cell 14, standing there in the dark, my face all wrong, eyeless, just black sockets, whispering his name over and over. He woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, and there it was, a single gray hair on his pillow, not his, mine, maybe. Worse, he found a scratch on his bedroom wall, just one letter, T. He scrubbed it off, moved the bed to cover it, but he says he hears stuff now, faint whispers when he's trying to sleep, like they're testing him out. I'm lying in my cot as I tell you this, man, staring at the ceiling while the ward's quiet, except for the drip of a leaky faucet down the hall. The whispers are constant now, a low roar in my head, my chest, my damn marrow. They're not done with me. I can feel it, this pull that's still tying me to D Block, to that pit. And Tim, God, they're reaching for him next. I clench my fists, nails digging into my palms, and mutter to myself, not him, not my kid. But deep down I know they won't let go, not till they've got us both. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more creepy stories. Stay safe, and see you in the next nightmare.